Good evening, Terp fans. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. We have Todd Carton joining us today on the Capital Sports Blog. Terps year-end wrap-up, and Freddy from Boca's here on the phone. Good evening to both of you.
Good evening. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year to everybody.
And Kwanzaa, too, if I have to, we got to put all of them together. Or as I like to call the season, Christmas Hanukkah Kwanzaakus.
Thank you. There's a platypus out there somewhere that's celebrating that. Todd, to get started, you wrote 2 articles this week about Maryland's finances. Where were those posted, and what was the gist of what you had to say?
Well, they were posted on testudotimes.com, and they're kind of buried now. You got to look for them if you want to find them. But what they said in brief was that Maryland's moved from the ACC to the Big Ten in the first year, increased their revenue from just a tad over $68 million to something close to 87, a little under $87 million. So in that sense, certainly was a really good move for Maryland. But in the bigger picture, Maryland's only about 9th or 10th in the Big Ten, even sitting at $86 million. So we've got a long way to go as Terp fans before we catch up and can really compete with some of the big money. The other big number that jumped out at me, frankly, was that Maryland spends less on its recruiting budget than just about everybody in the Big Ten. In fact, there were some schools that spent more on the men's recruiting alone than Maryland spent in total on men's and women's recruiting in the year ended June 30th, 2015.
Wow. Freddie, I know you read those stories. What do you think of Todd's take there?
Oh, it's very important. Todd, the question is, what percentage of I know Maryland was like a gradual, getting payments from the Big Ten until they reach 100%. Where are we now as far as what percentage of revenues coming in to bear what we will get in a couple of years?
Well, Freddie, I've heard so many different variations on that I hesitate to say what it is. I know that Maryland got significant advance in terms of travel expenses to use for travel, additional travel. I think that was about $20 million. One story I heard said Maryland is sort of front-loaded. We're getting full vesting from the Big Ten in year 1 and year 2, and we'll be paying it back gradually. Another one said, no, we don't get fully vested till year 6 or year 7, which is what Nebraska and Rutgers got. So honestly, Freddie, I've heard so many things. It's just all full of Swiss cheese as far as I'm concerned.
Do you see us returning the sports that we lost, or some of them in the next 5 years?
Probably not. The net income that's reported on this, it's a form that's filed with the Department of Education where I got all my information. It's called the Equity and Athletics something or other. And it showed that Maryland had about a $2.5 million net revenue this year. However, that doesn't include any of the debt service. So because the cost of that isn't income or expense, it's what in accounting we would call a balance sheet transaction. It eats up your cash but removes the principal of the amount that you owe out into the future. So whether Maryland's really operating in the black when you throw in the cost of debt service, I don't know, and I haven't seen those numbers.
Well, things are definitely looking up because the difference of about $18 million that we're better off, I think, is only going to grow as we move into the future.
Oh, and the Big Ten contract, the TV contract blows up in a couple of years too, and so it should look better.
And it's getting better. So we'll take that all as a positive. Now, in the last week, you talked about recruiting. Maryland football has gone out and recruited a heck of a coaching staff under DJ Durkin. They picked up Pete Lembo this week. He was the head coach at Ball State. I've never heard of a head coach who resigns being a head coach to come someplace else to be the special teams coordinator. So this looks like a special circumstance. Walt Bell comes over from Arkansas State. He's only 31. He's known as a great recruiter and innovative offensive mind. Then we have the guys we talked about last time with Mike London, Scott Schaefer was the head coach at Syracuse. Azar Abdul-Rahim, who was a recruiter for Alabama, formerly the head coach at Friendship Collegiate, which was a high school powerhouse in D.C. Boy, it's a lot of head coaches. Do you think we're too head coach heavy here, or is this something that's a good thing for the young DJ Durkin to have? Freddie, have any comments on this?
I think, considering Durkin has no head coaching experience, it's a very good thing because there's going to be incidents that come up, situations that come up, which he may have seen come up, but never really had to deal with himself when he was assistant for Shaw or Harbaugh or Urban Meyer. And here he had an opportunity to run stuff off guys that have been there, that understand the entire dynamics of running a program, to get various viewpoints of how to handle this and how to do this. And I think it gives him just, the final decision is obviously going to be DJ's. It gives him the opportunity to talk to guys who have experienced these type of situations and gain from their experience and help them make a quicker, more intelligent decision.
Todd, what do you think?
Well, I don't know. I just kind of see going to Schaefer, and he says, well, put a little salt in the stew. And then he goes to Mike London, who says, no, it needs a little cayenne pepper. And then he goes to Lembo, and he makes some other suggestion. And, DJ Durkin's what, 37?
Yes.
So he's younger than London. He's younger than Lembo, about the same age as Schaefer. It's tough when you're the boss and you're younger than everybody that you're kind of supervising. So
what do you do? Not hire the guys because you're 37? I mean, come on.
What? Well, as I say, but you're the young kid on the block. You have no experience. So let me tell you how to go about doing things. You're younger than me. I have more experience. I was a head coach. And that's a lot to ask that guy to manage.
Well, yeah, it turns coaching into a management position.
Check your ego at the door. What are we talking about? I mean, three of those guys were head coaches in college, in Division I, and now they have to take orders from somebody who's never been a coach in Division I.
Hey, look, if they won where they were, they wouldn't be the special teams coach at Maryland. I mean, one of the things is maybe Lembo's a different story because he didn't like the money that he was getting as support he got at Ball State. Sometimes I sort of have to agree with you on the London and Schaefer. It's going to be hard for Durkin to go listen to them and then probably say no or disagree with them. But look, they got themselves here by getting fired, and I think Durkin picked the best people that were out there. Now, how he's going to manage having three guys who are head coaches under him, who knows?
And if Loxley stays, then you got another guy who's been a head coach. Also a failed head coach, a mega failure as a head coach.
Yeah, Maryland looks like a place, could be the place if you're a college program to get your next head coach, because it looks like we're recycling every used head coach out there. Freddie, have you ever seen anything like this?
Well, I know Harbaugh signed a lot of guys that had a lot of experience when he came coach of the Ravens. I think any smart baseball manager would bring in experienced guys, maybe former head managers to be a bench coach or a third base coach, because again, you're in uncharted waters, and it's not bad to have like a mentor in a sense, with these guys' experience. It's like God said, well, this guy add pepper, this guy add salt. You could bring in a 31-year-old assistant, and what do you add? I don't know. Call my mother. So these guys have, again, they've gone through the entire process of being a head coach. They know all the various dynamics of being a head coach. They've experienced a lot of the bumps and detours and obstacles that one encounters. So when one comes up to DJ, well, how did you handle this? How did you handle this? Then you have more input, and you have to sit down and go, well, here's this, and that. Now, what do I feel is best? Maybe a combination. But
so you're saying DJ goes to
what he's going through right now.
You're suggesting that DJ goes to Mike London and says, how do you handle this? And London says one thing, and then he goes to Schaefer, and Schaefer says something else, and then he goes to Lembo, and Lembo says a third thing, and DJ just walks away and says, gee, am I confused?
Right.
And you guys were all wrong as coaches anyway, so I'm going to do what I'm going to do anyway.
And in the end, that's what you have to do.
You can always go to Loxley and ask Loxley, and then do the opposite. considering obviously, results as a head coach.
Hey, speaking of head coaches, did Freddie? You said that maybe somebody had to send Todd that hat from to wear it on the air. Was
I think it came from a tout on the racetrack, or Bear Bryant's grandson, who colorblind or something.
Well, I'm known around campus for my hat or hats, plural, and it's colors of the season a little bit. It's Maryland. I got the black and red rocking. I'm just,
Did you say rock the red? Because if you're rocking the red,
I'm rocking the red, Wayne.
If you're rocking the red, my second favorite team out there, other than everything Maryland, is the Caps. They're off with only 6 losses, a historically great start. But guys, I've been around so long that you just got to get back to me in May. I know they're doing great, but right now, just because you did great in the regular season, not sure if it's going to pay off. I know you guys want me to enjoy the moment, but you got to cheer me up. Why should I be in love with this team as opposed to any other Caps team that's broken my heart since 1974?
Well, let's go back a couple of years. What was it? Boudreaux, who was the manager, a very colorful guy that when they had that HBO special for the game on New Year's Day was just a delight to listen to.
Yes.
We played a very, very Paul Westphal up-tempo offense and had an excellent regular season. And then, of course, the playoffs came. And I remember watching Pittsburgh against the Caps. And you watch Pittsburgh play, and every player on Pittsburgh, we got a center, wing, defenseman, they would sacrifice their body on shots, and so the puck never got to the goalie, where the Caps would just, almost do like the Ole Matador type of defense. You want to shoot? Let me move out of the way. I don't want the puck hitting me. The other night, the Caps were playing Carolina, and the best play of the game was a slap shot taken by a Carolina player, which was blocked by OV. OV went to the ice. The puck hit, he extended his arm and his stick, and the puck hit the stick and broke the stick. That's something you never see before. Why the Caps are so much better this year than any other year is because they are playing leaps and bounds better than any other Caps team because, A, they score goals. They were down 3-0 to the Rangers. They came back 1-7 to 3. They were down 2-1, then 3-1 to Tampa Bay, and they won that game 5-3. The Hopi has, I think right now, was up to his last 2 starts, was the best goalie as far as goals allowed and his percentage of saves. Grubauer's an excellent backup goalie. They score. They play defense. Their spacing on offense is beautiful. Their passing is terrific. They're always making the extra. Other than OV, and he does make some nice passes, but he's there to shoot. They make great passes. They make the extra pass for the better shot. I give Barry Trotz a tremendous amount of credit. They brought in a guy named Justin Williams, who's been on 3 Stanley Cup championship teams.
Yep.
Oshie's played exceptionally well. So the moves they made to enhance the team from last year, which was a vast improvement in Trotz's first year, this year it's taken to a new level, and that's why I think this team they look for real this year.
Okay. I'm smiling. I just I'm ready for the horn and let's go Caps and CAPS. Caps. But there's still that part of me that's like I know they're playing better, but they haven't done it yet. I'm still gonna have to hold out to actually do it.
They've never won. That's why
they've never.
It's like before 2002. Maryland, really good team, but they've never been there. So you don't. You're waiting for them to lose the big game because they've always lost the big game when it really came down to it.
Right, and the Maryland basketball team is getting better. I don't know if it's by leaps and bounds. Todd, I know everybody watches all these games.
Before we jump into Maryland basketball, Wayne, just let me wrap up the Cap session by saying, be happy now, enjoy it now, because they'll choke again in May like they do every year.
I hope you'll have to eat that hat for saying that. But even if you don't, Maryland basketball, Diamond Stone's starting to live up to it. The other guard, he wears number 1. His name escapes me at the moment. Who's the third guard, Todd?
Brantley.
Yeah, Jalen Brantley went to Odessa Community College, junior college last year, had a good game against Princeton. Can you see the growth in this basketball team?
Oh, absolutely. I think there's been a tremendous amount of growth in the team, and the fact that they struggled early in that Georgetown game, and Georgetown has struggled considerably both before and since then.
Boy, Georgetown's been horrible. They did beat Charlotte last night, but they've just been horrible.
And the fact that Maryland seems to be winning kind of comfortably now. They handled Connecticut pretty well. They handled Princeton. That shows. People tend to forget that although there's a lot of quote unquote experience on the roster, it's a bunch of guys who hadn't really played together very much. And I think everybody's still sort of learning their role and growing into what their role is going to be on any given night.
And they get back on the hard court Sunday at 4 o'clock up against the NFL schedule. They play Marshall. Marshall, I know, has a losing record. I saw him play West Virginia. Marshall stayed in the game for about a half. West Virginia wore them down. And then Wednesday, the game that Bruce Posner's been complaining about the time for forever, a 5 o'clock Wednesday the 30th. Penn State, who's pretty bad, comes into Comcast or Xfinity Center. Sorry. I've been looking around the Big Ten, Freddie. I see that Ohio State, they beat Kentucky. They're 5-5. Wisconsin barely has a winning record. Penn State's horrible. Rutgers is horrible. Purdue looks okay. And last night, going to overtime, was Michigan State and Oakland University. What do you make of the Big Ten this year?
Well, you got 3 teams in the top 25, and the rest of the teams aren't. They're way up the track, so to speak. The thing I love, so it's a little top heavy with the top 3, and not a very deep quality conference this year, which is unfortunate because I like seeing the team play good competition. I don't like playing weak competition. What I like about Maryland's team, particularly in the last few games, is Melo and sometimes both him and Suleiman in the same game don't have to score for the team to be good. And these guys are doing other things, racking up assists, playing defense, just maintaining stability on the floor. So we're not relying on 1 or 2 guys to always score every game. And I think that really makes the team much, much stronger. The other night, I think Melo had 10 assists, Suleiman had 5. Neither guy was in double figures in points. And that, to me, that shows that they're spreading the ball around. And yeah, you mentioned Stone before. Tremendous hands, great footwork. He's getting much more comfortable inside. I start to expect to see him start now using his physicality a little bit more as he's getting confidence, and the team is getting confidence in him. You see Carter. The only thing I would criticize Carter is too many shots from the outside. He's got great back to the basket moves. He got a nice little half hook shot. He can put the ball on the floor from about 10 feet and go to the hoop strong. You see nice plays where, like, Melo would give it to Carter in the lane. He'll dish to Dodd on the baseline. The last 2 games you've seen that play. Executed perfectly. Dodd has good hands. You'd like to see we have 5 big men. Would like to see more aggressiveness inside, but I think Todd made a good point. So it's a talented team. We have 3 new starters, and so it takes them a while to get acclimated and feel more comfortable with each other. And then I think then their individual talents will bloom a little bit more.
That was Freddy from Boca. We have Todd Carton joining us on the Capital Sports Blog Terps year-end wrap-up. I'm Wayne Viener, and we'll get to the best moments of 2015 here in a second. But I have one more question for Freddy. It involves Chris Davis. I keep hearing how much he is in demand, yet he's still on the market. What's going on with that?
Well, a lot of people thought that when Jason Hayward was signed, the dominoes would start falling and guys would start signing. That hasn't been the case. So there's a lot of quality players out there that are still waiting to see what teams have to offer. When you have an agent like Scott Boras, he's going to wait to the last second. He wants to milk every dollar he possibly can. And that's his job, is to get the best deal for his players. Recently I heard that the 2 possibilities teams other than the Orioles, Toronto, who has a lot of money, also has Encarnacion and Batista, both I think coming to the end of their contracts, and I think Batista's 35, but Encarnacion's 33, so one or both might not be with Toronto after this year. So Davis who lives very, very well. Well, Davis is well everywhere with power. Would be very, very favorable player for them, and they have a lot of money owned by Rogers Cable, the largest cable company in Canada. Dombrowski running Boston. They're apt to spend a lot of money, as Dombrowski did with Detroit, and with the Napoli now leaving Boston, there's a opening at first base, and I could see the Red Sox making a big play for Davis. So the ballpark doesn't fit him as well as Camden Yards, because right field's a tough, unless you hit down the pesky pole right down the line of Boston. Right field's a tough place to hit in Boston. Center field's a tough place to hit. But the big question with it seems to be the holdup with Baltimore's offer is there's deferred money on the table. And my gut feeling is that most players and agents, they want the money now. They don't want the money deferred 5-10 years from now, because $1 today is worth a lot more that's going to be worth a year, 10 years now in most cases.
Right. Well, I hope he gets back to the Orioles. They certainly need the help, although you've mentioned some other ways they could generate offense. But if Chris Davis still on the
one thing I would say, though, if you look at most of these mega contracts, none of them work out, particularly with guys getting 30 and older. I mean, they just don't work out. And they really hamstring a team pretty badly as far as taking that money and allocating it for maybe 2 or 3 other players. So I like to see Davis back. I think he's a terrific baseball player. I think he's going to get better as a hitter. He's only been like a full-time player 3 or 4 years now, so I think he's learning. He's still learning. Guy can play the outfield. He can pitch. I mean, he's a baseball player. Mm-hmm. I think he'll get better as an overall hitter. I'm not going to hit 47 home runs every year, but as an overall hitter, I think he'll be better. But these mega contracts, for them, they just don't work. They really don't.
I can't disagree with you. So
can I ask you? I mean, do you think that the Orioles absolutely need to play that power ball, sort of because of the configuration of the stadium that they play in, as opposed to maybe the small ball base-to-base type that Kansas City has employed pretty damn successfully for the last couple of years?
I think you play in a bandbox. You have to play for the home run. You can't play for, you can't play John Sheffick, University of Maryland baseball, where get a man on bunt, and get a ground ball and get him in. I mean, Kansas City is a big ballpark. It's a pitcher's ballpark, and they utilize their speed and defense and their bullpen extremely well, and they manufacture runs much better. You play in a ballpark which has not only a short porch and right, but a short power alley and left. You're playing for the Earl Weaver 3-1 homer.
Okay.
All right. Speaking of baseball, our guy who comes out of left field with every sport almost nobody watches, it's Todd Carton. Tell me the best players for Maryland, the best moments of 2015 for your non-revenue sports.
Okay. Well, that best moment, I think, for Maryland sports is the women's lacrosse team repeats as national champions. That's the only championship we can point to, national championship. We can point to some Big Ten championships, but even if you go pro teams right now, I mean, in the DC, Baltimore area, we have one championship team, and that's Maryland's women's lacrosse team. And of course, if you want me to single out a player, it goes without saying the incomparable Taylor Cummings, who has won the Tewaaraton Award back-to-back years as a sophomore and a junior, and is looking to become the first three-peat winner when we go into the 2016 season.
There's a wrestler who made some news. We'll give you a second on that.
Well, Lou Mascola last year came on very strong at I think he's 147 is his weight, I want to say. And he got whacked up pretty good by in a meet by a kid from Illinois who's the best in the country. But Lou looks like he's probably the one guy on the wrestling team that has the best chance to finish as an All-American this year.
For lacrosse,
how much does Maryland recruit out of Pennsylvania for wrestlers, Todd?
Some they have a handful out of Pennsylvania. He's gotten a couple of Kerry's gotten a couple of very big local guys. One a little Bannister, they call him Baby J. He's wrestling as a redshirt freshman. He's had some illness, but he's really a promising wrestler and could help solidify the lighter weight class for Maryland.
And so Pennsylvania's a pretty big hotbed for wrestling, that's for sure. And Lehigh, for year in and year out, always has wonderful wrestling teams.
Yeah, Harry Hill
always a Penn State guy, so he's got some Pennsylvania experience. That's the head coach for Maryland.
Yeah.
And this has been the Maryland Wrestling Minute, brought to you by, but in other sports. For lacrosse, I was on the field in Philadelphia when Maryland beat Johns Hopkins, held on at the end 12-11 to go to the national championship. Todd was up in the press box, and we were both back there on Monday, Memorial Day, as Maryland lost to Denver. So you had both the highest moment in lacrosse and probably the lowest moment, all mixed into one. Freddy, what are your biggest moments of 2015 for your Maryland Terps?
Well, the return of Maryland basketball to winning ways after 3 kind of mediocre to 4 years for Turgeon, playing much, much better, led by the freshman Mello Trimble. A nice season last year, and certainly got people excited for this year, even before Diamond Stone decided to come to Maryland, and now, of course, being ranked anywhere between 1 and 5 preseason, now number 4 as we head into the new year. Maryland basketball, we all hope is back, and back for a long, long time. Hats off to John Sheftick, the chef, taking Maryland to his 2nd consecutive NCAA for baseball, which is just terrific. And we went out and played UCLA at UCLA and beat them last year in the tournament. Hope that program continues. You talked about small ball. Boy, the chef, there's nothing but bunts and move the man up and station ball there. But they execute extremely well. And hopefully one day they can fix up Shipley Field, Bob Turtle Field, whatever it's called now, the Shell, and make it someplace where, it's tough, to draw fans out in March and April for baseball in college and for the pros too. But he's done an amazing job taking over there for the coach that actually went to Michigan. Mm-hmm. His name I forgot. Don't care about it anymore.
Eric Bakich is the coach at Michigan.
Speaking of Michigan, they picked up a former Maryland defensive coach, Don Brown, who left Maryland to go up to Massachusetts and coach. Now is the defensive coordinator at Michigan, taking DJ's place.
And the circle of life continues with that. My biggest surprise for 2015 is Diamond Stone as a Terp. My player of the year for everything in the revenue side, it's got to be Mello. Biggest win I was a part of probably was beating Wisconsin when Frank Kaminsky and the gang came in to Xfinity Center. It's a great night for Maryland. Of course, going the first Big Ten tournament was fun. Definitely a better feel in the ACC tournament. Going the NCAA's great. But my overall moment of the year was the Gary Williams Hall of Fame dinner that was held before Maryland played Michigan State. And it's just because everybody who showed up, and it was a who's who of Maryland sports crowded into that ballroom. It was just great. The downers of the year, fact that Randy actually had to be let go. But letting him go wasn't a surprise. And hopefully the future surprise, the gift that will keep on giving, hopefully for a long time, Maryland hiring DJ Durkin. Throw it over to Todd. Best revenue moment of the year for you.
Best revenue moment of the year for me, I think probably the win over Wisconsin for men's basketball. That just kind of blew the roof off the place, off of the Xbox, and off we went. I think it really made a statement that Maryland basketball was back. But while I'm talking, we also can't not mention the women's basketball team and going on, sweeping through the Big Ten undefeated and going to back-to-back Final Fours last in 14 and 15. So, that's a pretty nice little accomplishment too.
Well, go ahead and throw in a minute on men's soccer that managed to win the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah, men's soccer, back-to-back. The amazing thing about this men's soccer is that the senior class that graduated this year never lost a conference tournament. They won their last 2 in the ACC and the first 2 in the Big Ten.
So overall for Maryland, a pretty good 2015. I got to ask you to close out your non-revenues. What was the 2015 story on your field hockey team?
Field hockey swept the Big Ten, repeated as conference champions, won the tournament. They went out in the tournament final last year. and then for the first time in 15 years, I think 15, 16 years, lost in the first round of the NCAA tournament. So that was a big disappointment. But volleyball team actually provided one of the great non-rev moments of the year when they upset Ohio State in 3 sets, who was number 12 in the country, and picked up their first win over a ranked team in 5 years.
That's Todd Carton. I'm Wayne Viener. Freddy from Boca is on the phone with us tonight as we take a look back to 2015. I'm going to wrap up our year in review with Freddy's prediction for what to look for quickly here for 2016. Where do you think the biggest growth is going to come for Maryland?
Biggest growth, you really hope, comes from football for many, many reasons. It's the number one revenue sport. It's the one that brings in the most cash, obviously. The basketball does a pretty nice job. I think one of the best revenue moves made this year was the buyout that Randy Edsel was given by Kevin Anderson. That, and if I win the Powerball tonight, would be a nice revenue move. But I think that football. Look, you saw the way the team played when Randy left. I mean, there was emotion, there was hustle. There's some talent there, not a lot, but there's enough to work with. And now we see recruiting is picked up. No one really is left that is committed. Though, of course, the big question is, will the QB
Dwayne Haskins? Dwayne Haskins from Bullis.
I think he's going to hang around. He's got a chance to walk in and start next year. And if I was a kid and I can walk in and start as a freshman, I would want that desperately. And I think Durkin's his personality. I think that the coach coming in from Friendship, who has a lot of ties to the area, and people either know of him or know him well, that bodes well. London's well known in the area. I think football is primed now to make a nice move, and as they start building the new Cole, that's going to be a great recruiting tool in 2 or 3 years to get kids to look at Maryland more, and that's a big move. Maryland basketball, boy, as long as Suleiman and Mello stay healthy, which is a big if, for talking about any kids or anybody playing ball, but because we're so thin in the backcourt. I mean, we're a top 10, we're a top 4 team right now, and when you have a really quality big man, and we have 5 good big men, but one guy that can really stand out, that's Steinman's done, because he can be a guy that goes out there and gets you 20 and 10 on a regular basis in another month or so with a little more experience, and you can see already how much better he's gotten, in the offense, and with guys like Mello and Silver who are really playing excellent basketball. Again, they don't have to score for us to win. Maryland basketball is going to be a big player this year. Soccer every year is good. The Sasha does a wonderful job. Lacrosse, Tillman's gotten them to the doorstep, to the front door several times in his first 4 years. I think 3 times gotten to the Final Four. I'd like to see him change the offense. They play a terribly boring offense, and if I'm a kid who was playing lacrosse, I want to go up and down the field, but we need some. I guess maybe get better athletes or good lacrosse players, or vice versa. Good lacrosse. So, the athletics at Maryland is definitely on the upswing.
It is.
Brenda's got 5 stars coming in next year. They're playing Connecticut Monday night. Should be a good game. ESPN too.
And I know that's one of Todd's games of the year right there. Freddie, you brought up everything that's going well. Todd, that's unusual for Freddie. Usually he has some things that he just can't stand. That was overly optimistic. What do you have as your things to look for in 2016?
You want me to turn into Freddie?
No, but I just, it's Freddie. I mean, to not have something, they're horrible. It's just not like Freddie.
No, he just tells it like it is. Freddie's not the homer. Freddie roots for the team like mad, but Freddie doesn't play homer. Freddie doesn't play shill.
No. Well, look, I think
shill. Anyhow, Todd, what do you have?
I think Freddie's kind of on target. We have certainly realistic hopes for men's and women's basketball making very deep tournament runs again. 4 out of 5 years, Tillman's gotten Maryland to the Final Four at least. So it's not good enough. I'm sorry, Wayne?
It still feels like that's just not good enough, almost Caps-like. You get us so far, and you can't close the deal. He's got to close the deal.
But it's 41 years now since Maryland has actually won the national championship. So one of these days he'll kick the door down. I'm hoping it's this year. Obviously, women's lacrosse, softball. We want to talk about the sport at Maryland that's in complete disarray, softball. Baseball has a chance.
Any sports out?
There's one person in the world who knew that would know that. I just checked the fact checker. They're going softball. They can't even find a softball.
Well, I mean, they're on their third coach in 3 years. And one of my favorite names in the coaching fraternity now at Maryland, Julie Wright, because it opens the door for all sorts of directing traffic report puns.
Right.
Forward for those in the Washington area that know Julie Wright as a traffic reporter. It's not the same person. But that's a program that's going to be behind the curve because kids start committing when they're about 4 years old, and she's several years behind in recruiting. Volleyball is really looking up. Nebraska won the NCAA volleyball tournament, second women's team from the Big Ten to win a national championship this fall. Penn State soccer won the national championship. 3 to 5 years, we could see Maryland volleyball team hoisting that trophy.
Wow, that's a bold prediction. I've got my 2016. I think the biggest moment in 2016, if it happens, is when somebody finally puts a shovel in the ground for this new coal project. I will then believe that we're fully committed to getting football on the front page and keeping it there. I'm disappointed it hasn't happened yet. If it doesn't happen soon, Todd, I'm going to ask you to go out there with me on one midnight and start digging on our own. The other thing, if Brantley is good enough as the third guard, I'm hoping we're all going to be in Houston for the first Monday in April for the national championship for our Terps on the basketball court. And I'm going to echo everything Freddy said. It looks like football, even without the new coal, is moving in the right direction. We got to wrap this up here. Last words, I'll go with Todd.
Well, I'll go with you on A, Jalen Brantley, B, a comment that Freddie made about the Terps basketball winning without Suleiman and Melo scoring. Even more important, they're doing it without Melo having to go to the foul line 350 times a game, so he's not getting beaten up quite as much. And football, it is the 200-pound or 400-pound or 800-pound, however big you want your gorilla to be. It is all about football. I'm excited for the DJ Durkin era. Despite what I said about his assistant coaching staff, I'm still excited in general. He's offered 100 guys from Florida. If we can pick up a few of those in commits, we'll have a heck of a class for 2016. And our schedule's a little softer, so... and there are 40 bowls that we can make, including the potato bowl that they played yesterday.
Hey, right now I'll take a potato bowl. Freddie, give you a 20-second run here.
Speaking of potatoes, I saw on the news a few nights ago that they're planning on planting potatoes in Mars.
And with that, we are out of Maryland content. When you start planting potatoes on Mars, that's it for us. That was Freddie on the phone for Boca. I got Todd towards College Park. I'm out here in Montgomery County wishing all of you a happy holiday, Merry Christmas. Todd, throw in your phrase for the whole holiday season.
Happy Christmas, Kwanzaa.
This is Wayne Viener for Capital Sports Blog. We'll see you all in 2016. Good evening.